Hi, my name is Brittany, and this is my channel, Pineapple Grease. Like and subscribe and stuff. And today we're going to be talking about stupid love comedy. I just picked it up and hauled it in my most recent book haul unboxing thing if you wanted to see me open it, but now it's kind of spoiled. Here it is. So this is like a bind up of stupid love comedy. It's 3 volumes total, and this is, you know, the whole thing. Ooh, isn't it beautiful? It's about a mangaka named Suzu Sakura. And so it's very interesting because it's like very, very based on the mangaka of its life. And so it's pretty similar to how she is in real life. And like even her name is sort of like taken from the mangaka's name. Like it's like a shortened version of her name. It's just like Suzu Sakurai instead of Suzu Sakura. So that's pretty interesting. And then you get little notes from like her editors and stuff about like, oh yeah, she did really do this stuff. So the story is basically about this shoujo mangaka and her like shenanigans with going through that and like having deadlines and being late for deadlines. It starts with she gets a new editor who's this like really hot guy, and she's like, oh, ooh, cute editor. But he looks down on shoujo. He like came from a CN magazine, and he like thinks shoujo's kind of dumb. But through working with her, he sees like, nah, shoujo, like, I think that you are really amazing and you can make good stuff and whatnot. And so she sort of changes his mind, but he's really mean to her, and she's always throwing herself at him, and it's really funny. So there's like a little bit of a romance, but it's mostly just a comedy type story and like a slice of life comedy going through like the manga, like the life of a mangaka and like the manga industry a little bit. So like if you're looking for like a super solid romance story, this probably isn't it, because the romance is like, it's definitely more focused on comedy and much less on romance. But it does have like shoujo-y feels to it, because she is like a very romantic, like silly, very over-the-top character. And so it's a lot of fun. I really recommend you go and you read it, and then you can come back and talk to me about it. And now we're gonna like get into the spoiler stuff, so if you don't want to hear that, then maybe leave. But go read it and then come back. So those people leave though. And we'll just like get into it. So I really enjoyed this story. Like it's so sweet and silly. Like it's such a breath of fresh air. And I really like how Suzu, she's just like so animated and over the top. Like she's such a like funny character. And apparently the mangakas really like that. And I love all the little like editor notes that tell you like, ah, yeah, she really is like this. Like it has these little like panel-y things right here with like the editors talking about like, oh yeah, like this one says like, well, this one's like a little bit more about the designer and how like it was like all the people are kind of based on real people, so it's very like similar to life. But then it seems so crazy because it's so over the top and funny and not similar to life, you know what I mean? Because I love Suzu and how she's like constantly going off into like her imagination land with like these crazy things that she thinks up, and it's so funny. And her assistant totally just like goes along with her and is like, oh no, we're fighting in this mountain. Like he's totally with her. And that would be how I would be. Like me and my friends kind of do that type of thing where you just go in and you play along, and her editor does not play along. He's having none of that. And it's so funny. Yeah, it's just such a fun story. Like, I don't know, it's such a fun like slice of life. Like I really like that about it. Do you? I don't know. And I also just love the look of her editor. Like he's so cute, which definitely helps. And also he's like that mean character that's like really hard on her, but also like is really supporting her, and like it's like tough love. But so I always like characters like that where they're like kind of harsh, but then you get to see their sweet side and you're like, oh, like the contrast is cute. Though you don't get to see his like sweet side that much. But the love story in it is like, that's the only downer for me. Like, the love story is kind of non-existent, but then they sort of try to like force it, because she's always throwing herself at the editor, which is so funny. The editor's named Hasegawa. In their relationship is so funny, because she's like, I love you, blah blah blah, and he's just like dodges her and stuff when she tries to throw herself at him like physically. And then whenever she like, he'll say something and she'll like twist it into being like a, oh my, he's so jealous of me, or like whatever, you know, like, isn't it so funny? So she like always is twisting his things around, and then he's just like, no, you know that's not what I meant, like, I hate you. And then he just kind of like yells at her, and it's so funny. But then, I don't know, I feel like a lot of stories do this where it felt kind of rushed at the end, where they were like, oh my gosh, we gotta get to the point, because it's sort of just a like a little slice of life thing where every chapter is kind of like different. And I mean, not different, but like every chapter is sort of its own little story most of the time, and it's just kind of like going through her daily life type of stuff and like shenanigans, and it's really funny. But then it gets to near the end, and she's like seriously like, I love you, I need to like tell you how much I love you and stuff. And this is where it gets really weird, because for one, he's just kind of like, then I'll have to stop being your editor. And she's like, no, I'm gonna make you love me and keep you as my editor, right? But then it's really, really weird, because he's like, all right, well, if you want to make me love you, then do better at being a mangaka, and like meet your deadlines, and like answer the phone when I call, and do. So basically it's like really weird, because he's kind of just like trying to get her to be a better worker, but he's like, then I'll love you maybe someday. And it feels really awkward, and even her assistant's kind of like, what the heck? But then everyone's like, oh yes, your relationship is love already, and the guy's like, no, I don't see you that way. But then they're trying to hint that like he does, and like you can see, like, make a case for like he does love her, like, yay. But it definitely feels awkward. And also he's like, I don't know, like they have this discussion about like, do you have to love your mangaka to like edit for them? Like, do you have to like them as a person? And some of them are like, yeah, and some of them are like, no, you don't, because you can be a crappy person and make really cool things, which I think is definitely true. So I don't know. And it was weird where it's like, I don't know, like it was a weird thing, like the love story trying to become real, and then it like doesn't really, but it like sort of does. But like, they made it seem like it would. It's the very end is where it gets so weird, because he says like, fine, if you sell 1 million copies, I'll kiss you. Like, what? After him being like, nah, I don't, no, very little hope. And then it like ends with him from like the future being like he ends up spending the rest of his life with her, and he can never leave her side, but he like doesn't know if it's as a mangaka or as like a woman or whatever, this page. And it's just like really weird. And then I had all these like funny little side things, like her crazy mangas that she like thinks up that he's like, this is terrible, no, you're not doing this, are really funny. Like the space vampire crazy story, and then you get to see a little bit of that story, and they're just like, this is garbage. And her assistant even is like, this is trash, this belongs in the trash can. And she's like, what? But no, like, don't you know who pays you? Like, this is amazing. And then he like looks at it and is like, you're right, it's just the world isn't ready for this yet. You're too ahead of your times. That's what it is. I just like how cute and funny it is. I love all her like crazy reactions to things. Like this one is a good example of where she's like out pretending to be like lost in the snow and like dying in the snow, and then you have her assistant who's just like right there with her being like, no, don't die, don't fall asleep, that's the end, type of thing. Like, it's so funny. And I really love that. And I love how it's just like normal life, and then all the rest of the people mostly are just like, who's this weirdo and why is she doing this? And just how she behaves in a lot of ways are so funny. And like how she's always late on her deadlines, and then she just like brings them candy to be like, here you go, I'm sorry for being late, here's your candy or your cheesecake or whatever she gives them. And they're like, we don't want cheesecake, just meet your deadlines. And it's really funny. It's a really funny story. I don't know, her relationship with Hasegawa is like really cute, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like if they could have made it like a really sweet romance that would have been so cute if they like spent more time on it. But since they just kind of like plopped it in at the end and then didn't even really fulfill it, it was kind of weird. And I feel like that's partly because since it's all very largely based on her real life, and like the editor is sort of based on her, like her editors and stuff, and since they don't have any sort of relationship like that, maybe it felt kind of weird. Like one of the editors in it is saying all the time, like in the little blurby things that he writes, is like, they could never get together. I don't think so. I don't think that would ever happen, because he would never fall for her because she's just crazy, you know? And so it's a little funny that that's the case. And then, like, I don't know, I feel like I could see that being why it would be harder. And they also just really didn't focus on that until near the end. But if they had, like, built it up throughout longer, or if they had, like, another volume to go after this and just like went a little longer, they could have definitely like created a really cute love story with it. But they didn't, and that's fine. And I honestly think it's fine the way it is. I just think the ending is weird, and I almost wish that they like didn't focus on the romance of it as much, because it just felt kind of like thrown in there to this like slice of life story. And like I think the characters can totally be in a cute relationship, and that would be fine. But I also think that like they're kind of cute as just like coworker, editor, like mangaka, friend type relationship is really cute too. So like I don't think it necessarily needed that, and I kind of think it like made it weird. At least the way they did it made it very weird. But I don't know, I think overall it was really well done, and I think the art is really good. Especially for when she does crazy stuff, like it just tends to get really detailed and stuff, and like her guys are really cute, and Suzu's really cute, and she's just so funny. Like she just goes into like this like pretending to be like a person from old times, and like, and how they like draw her differently for how she's acting silly. I love that. I feel like this would be me in life when I act stupid. But yeah, if you haven't read it yet and you decided to stay and be kind of spoiled for it a little bit, then whatever. I recommend you still read it. I think it's still worthwhile. Because like we didn't talk that much about all the little stuff. I think her assistant is really sweet and funny, and like her relationship with him is really good. Also, he's interesting with his like his dream of being a mangaka, but he's the guy that's like, it's all up here, someday I'll write it down. Like he's that person that's all talk and doesn't really do anything. And they sort of have that in one of the little asides or whatever at the end. I mean, not an aside, but like he in the what's the word, extras, in the extras at the end, they sort of have that, and he has him being like so cool about like, yes, I have these huge plans for what I'm gonna do, and it's gonna like be a Hollywood movie basically, because it'll be so amazing. It's all up here, but I don't have any of it written down yet, you know, like I don't know, which I feel like a lot of people have that. Like I definitely have that sometimes, like a lot of the time. And then you like go to try and actually do something, and you're like, it's so hard to actually write a story. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely recommend it if you haven't read it yet. And I don't know, what did you think? Like, did you like it? I really, really enjoyed it. I like laughed and I smiled so much. So I think it was a good one. And it's just like so fun to see into like the life of a shoujo mangaka, and like, wow, so much work. and stuff. Like, I always like stories that sort of delve into the manga industry and like otaku life and stuff like that. This is definitely a very lighthearted one of those, looking into it. Like, sometimes they can be more like all work, and this is definitely like shows you like she works so hard, but it does it in a way that's like funny and fun, and not like, oh, I feel bad for her, she's working all the time. But she's so silly, and she's like also like dilly-dallying a lot of the time, and then they're like, why didn't you meet your deadline? So that's pretty silly. Definitely recommend. That's about it for my review. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the story as much as I did. And that's about it. Subscribe and have a nice day. Bye.